Hey guys, this is D aka Dark Frozen Dust, back with another Kamihime project video. I figured I probably should make this video a little bit more up to date because of the fact that there's definitely been a lot more new stuff added to the game, and there's been a few people that's been wondering how my damage and numbers have gotten so high. So I'm going to pretty much just cover a general overview of a lot of this stuff because there's guides and all that really help you out, because it's more broken down into those videos. But this is more of a quick little thing to help people out because there's some people that don't really know how to build their teams and grids, and while it's a general perspective on things, you still need to know enough so you can do things to prevent your damage from being like this. And make it look more like this. So yeah, as you can see, the numbers are definitely a lot better when you know what you're doing, and depending on how far you've grinded and what you've done. But and this is something that can be done for pretty much any element too, so you need to pay attention to like different things in the game. But starting off, this is going to cover pretty much the specific spots you probably should grind if you're really trying to maximize your damage, because believe me when I say this, there's a lot to grind. So starting off, let's go into the quest tab. Now, not all this is going to be unlocked. You will need to rank up in order to open up a lot of this stuff. So basically, you're farming main quests at the start in order to pretty much just bump up your rank. You may get some stuff along the way, but it ultimately doesn't matter too much because most of the stuff from the main quest you're just going to ignore. But as you go through, you'll unlock different things like the material quests. Good place to level up your Kamihime, because you do want to do that because they're going to have increased skills at specific levels and whatnot. Then on top of that, there's more of these if you happen to need it, like the I'm always needing weapon EXP because it gets pretty costly later on. You may or may not burn through all your Idolin points, but if you're doing final limit break on Idolins, you will burn through this, so that's here too, in case you need more. You're going to burn through quite a bit of gems too, so definitely grind that out. I mean, I may be sitting at 2 million, some people may be sitting up at 200 million, but when you're upgrading, you will notice how quickly you start eating through all your gems. So there's that. And then Element Quest is a little bit different because there's two specific things. First off, you'll see this limited time thing pop up. That's going to be helpful later when you try to get your weapons upgraded a little bit more. But for the main part, you're going to be going through all these different like cave quests and all that type of stuff. Now, they're going to be pathetically easy. You can ignore these little recommended battle rating tabs where it says like 3,800, 125, 12,500, and then 22,500. Ignore all that. That's not really going to, like, they try to give you a decent estimate, but it's not a good one. What might be a good one is this malicious one. So yeah, you probably will have a grid around that point if you know what you're doing by the time you take this on. So keep that in mind. But generally, you're going through clearing as much of these as possible. They give you some free stuff on the first clear, including this. This gives you free stuff on the first clear too, as I've already got it. But it doesn't have repeatable drops. It's Ragnarok and below that does. But your main target is to get some of these repeatable drops. Now, I've heard different places where you can probably get specific things, but I know that if you're low on like the stars and the little crystal-like rocks, I do believe this is the best place to grind them out. But if you're low on something like Fangs, then Ragnarok's going to be the way to go. So, it all depends. Keep up on your materials, because you're going to burn through quite a lot of them. Not kidding. Now, that's the basic stuff in order to upgrade like a generalized thing. But to get more specific, let's start off with Advent Battle. This is something a few people forget it does exist in the game. I, for the most part, ignore it because I don't need anything from here at the time being, but it does indeed help later on. Like, for instance, if I wanted to grind out more of these old demonic cores, there's some of them here, so I kept them on like a back burner as like an emergency grab, just in case. But you may get some stuff here that you can final limit break. Depending on what it is, you may or may not want to grab it. Like, this isn't bad for some HP for a Thunder Team. And then this Adon, while not the best, she still can up any ability damage for the time being for Thunder characters. So you may find a use for her or not. But even then, you can still slap her in the sub slots just for the base stats and maybe an occasional dizzy if she applies it. But you never know. And worst case, you'll be selling this stuff off anyway because you get Adon orbs from Adons as long as they're not in rarity, and you get pretty much a lot of different things like weapon EXP and a few other things from weapons. It depends on what drops. But this is one of the starting areas to try and grind that stuff out. But you do need to be specific ranks for this, which will be rank 70 for the highest one. So keep that in mind. Now, speaking of weapons too, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit. But there's a gem gacha that's normally here. I've done it already. Do that gem gacha. It doesn't take that many gems in order to do it. You can do that, constantly do that every day. You can get some weapon Adon points as well, because you'll need specific ones to upgrade your stuff even further. You may get more Kamihime if you haven't pulled them already, so there's that. You can also try your luck at the luck gacha too if you want to, but it's mainly just for the fact that it's like discounted pulls. And it can give you some extra stuff, you never know. When you start collecting a whole bunch of these 1/110 tickets, 10 of these, you'll slip and get a guaranteed SSR. Very valuable, will definitely grind out things that will drop that. You'll get the other stuff just from doing missions. Premium gacha is only if you have star coins. Don't even worry about it, because if you're going to burn your star coins, do it on this stuff. Like stuff like this, and stuff like this. Although you may not want to get some of these specific ones. Like this one says a powerful Adon step up or whatever. It's okay. Like, that's decent. Then there's like, this is decent too, the special Adon one. But the price step down is like a gimmick type thing, but it's still cheaper than like pulling, say, 50 pulls. This is for the lazy people if you don't want to grind out materials. S-Class Soul, there's that. But that's where you get the majority of your like weapons and Kamihime and all that. Now, if you want to go a little bit further on the free stuff, you're going to go into Epic Quest, because Epic Quest is where you're going to get a lot of pretty much basic stuff, but you can grind out for more things if you want. Like, I know I haven't finished this one, so I can show some of the stuff in this. But you go through, do your quests and all that. It doesn't take much rank in order to do this stuff. Like, this is like, it says rank 1+, but in order to unlock Epic Quest, it's really like rank 70. But it's so pathetically easy that I don't know why they pushed it up that rank anyway. Probably because of the fact that a lot of the stuff you get is pretty like valuable for it. Like, if they don't have an Adon here, then you can get Adon orbs. If they do have an Adon here, there's quite a few that you might want to use. So there's that. But then they also got these weapons as well. Some of these weapons can final break, some aren't. And depending on what they are, like this one, it's actually better than some of the raid weapons you might get around the same rank. So keep that in mind. Then you can come here, get more upgrade materials and all that, soul points as well if you need them. And there's a lot of epic quests, and each one, I do believe, well, not each one, but most of them, will give you an SR Kamihime when you open them up. As far as I know, every last one of them in there right now does, but some of them won't later because they're like reruns of old raid events, and not every raid event will do that. So just go through. It takes gems to open them up, but not many. but just go through. If you really want to go above and beyond, clear them all out. But that's going to take a while. But as you go through, I'm going to ignore these bottom two for right now, but they will be useful depending on what you're doing. But this next one, Raid Quest, this is where you're going to do a crap ton of grinding. This is like the bread and butter of this. In fact, I'm going to go on another tab so you can see all the different tiers. So, starting off, you're going to have Standard. You'll go up to Expert, Ultimate. Eventually, there's Ragnarok. There's a second Ragnarok, but we call it Guardian because it literally has Guardian in the title. Keep that in mind. Then there's Guardian Plus, which is technically Ragnarok Plus, but we call him Guardian Plus. Then there's Malicious, and now we're starting to get Malicious Plus. That's the newest thing. As you can see, there's a lot of different things that can drop, and it just gets better as you go along. You're really just doing Expert and Standard just to try and get some quicker materials, and they're very, very easy. They're so pathetically easy that even a day one player can beat them if they get enough rank in order to open them up. So you can basically just go through and just solo those on your own. And then there's Ultimate, where you finally start getting stuff you're probably going to grind out a lot. That being the SSR weapons. Definitely the stuff like this. Like this little thing right beside the SSR weapons. It's called a Regalia. You'll start needing those to open up at later raids, and you might need them for getting specific trades and all that too. But and then mainly they're used for upgrading stuff as well. But basically you'll be grinding out stuff like that. And then if you look down here, you can see where each of the reward drops to. The details thing is going to help you out quite a lot. That's a quality of life they added a while back, but honestly should have added even earlier. But basically you're going through those in order to try and grind out that stuff. Now, the weapons that may drop from here, the Ragnarok raids, you may use them in the earlier grid, but you need 6 of the same type, including the weapon itself. That means if you get the spear one that drop, you would need 5 other spears in order to try to make the most of it. That's because one of its weapon skills, and we'll get to those later, needs 6 of the same weapon type on the grid, including itself. So that's how you make the most of those type of weapons, but honestly, you may or may not even have to worry about it, because these are okay depending on when you use them, but you can still more or less ignore them, because there's other stuff that you can use in its place. They've kind of fallen off. Honestly, if they ever get a final break or something, then they might come back, but we don't know. But this is where you're going to really start grinding, and this is also the point where raids might actually start kicking your teeth in, because these are going to be the main weapons that you're going to try and get for, I would say, a quote-unquote mid-game. These SSR weapons down here. You're also going to need to get a lot of this item right here, which we call globes. It's right next to the SSR weapons. But basically, these are the ones that are going to have multiple skills, and some of them you won't see up until you start opening these raids, unless you're lucky, or if a random event might give one. So that's where you're going to have to more or less grind out some stuff and pretty much just prepare yourself for the later raid grind, basically, because it's like one grind to another. This game is pretty grindy, I'm just saying that right now. Now, once you get a little bit further, you may get some of these little accessory things from the Guardian Plus raid. These are kind of helpful. It depends on what they roll, but their base stats are actually pretty good for equipping them to your Kamihime. And another bonus thing about the accessories too, these Ragnarok raids right here, like these ones that use these to open, the Regalia, you will get something called Cavis, which is these little board things, and then these little broken piece things. People joke and call them chocolate bars, but they're used to actually open up some accessory slots on your Kamihime. That's going to help you out. Again, I'm going to glance over that later, but like I said, there's more guides that really go into in-depth stuff for that. But now When you go a little bit further, you'll start opening up the malicious raids. There's even more weapons you might want to get, but these ones are a little bit special in the fact that they are free weapons that can 5-star. And if I can slide this up, because forgive me, my mouse key is a little bit messed up. But these SSR weapons, these can be pretty useful. They can be pretty powerful, and most quote-unquote in-game grids will have at least 1 or 2 of these. And basically, they're going to be pretty helpful. So, you're going to be grinding for those, unless you have better. You're going to be grinding for these little disc-like objects, too. This little bright white disc thing in between this little silver thing in that book. Now, the silver thing may or may not be used. It helps you trade for another accessory that's also pretty good if you use it properly and has a lot of base stats. You may or may not grab that. I suggest you should, but that's after you get your weapons. So there's that. But you're going to pretty much grind those raids for that type of stuff. That's the main priority for that. And then this upper raid, Malicious Plus, honestly, the weapons are, like, they're so-so, but you may or may not use them. The SSR weapons. It really depends. Because there's other stuff that can perform better than these. And then on top of that, you need more than one fully upgrade on your grid in order to get them to their quote-unquote soft caps. Again, there's a guide that breaks that down. But basically, you may ignore these weapons, you may not. The main thing is getting this little, like, disc drive looking thing right here. And maybe even some more of these discs right here. But the disc drive is the main thing, because that's going to be something that's needed to upgrade your soul weapons. And soul weapons are pretty powerful at this point when you upgrade them with these things, so definitely focus on the Malicious Plus for that. And then there's also a special thing with the Phantom Tab, too. These 2 raids happen to be some very specific materials that you'll probably grind out. Mainly the books that you get from them. You'll get a decent amount of these little books as well, like the silver ones right here. And then I call this a gold book, even though it's got a rainbow background. Some people call it a red book, but I call it gold because of the gold line on it, and there's a silver line on that. Then there's this book that has like lights on coming off of it. That's going to be one of your main grind points right there. But you probably won't see that drop. What you're probably getting is the pages instead. 100 of those pages will make that book I just mentioned, the one with the lights. And if you are lucky, you might still get one of these special globes to drop in order to trade for an Adoan, but the Adoan sucks, so don't worry about that. I don't know why they made it such a hard drop for something that's not that great. But, then there's the malicious version of her, too. And you'll get a different type of page with, hopefully, a different type of book drop. But, again, don't hold your breath for that. But these little red books, because this is the one I want to call a red book, because it's literally a dark red. But, that's going to be used for some other soul grinds and all that type of stuff, too. So, yeah, definitely going to get that. Also, you've noticed that you might see red or purple medals. Red medals are in every single raid. You can use them to trade for some stuff, too. There's a trade list for some things. Even can get some weapons if you want. But, the purple ones are going to be the ones you mainly try to go after. Unfortunately, purple only shows up from any raid that's malicious, Malicious Plus, or quote-unquote Ragnarok Plus, but it's really Guardian Plus. So, there's that. Now, I've been mentioning all that type of stuff here. The medals and everything. So, generally, you'll start racking up a whole bunch of red medals. If you're grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, you'll just brain dead get a whole bunch of a lot of these. Me, I've been off and on grinding throughout the month. I mean, I still put in some effort, but there you go. But you can trade for a lot of different stuff in this shop. I would ignore most of it because a lot of it drops from raids anyways. But if you're hating the RNG for these little phantom weapons, you can get that. But remember that they may not stay in your grid. If you're hating the drop rate for the specific weapons from the ultimate raids, then you may want to grab those. Like if you wanted more HP, here you go. There's that. If you wanted more attack power for something, there you go. If you wanted more ability damage and a little bit of attack power, there you go. But these ability damage ones will get thrown off your grid for something better later, so keep that in mind. Those ability damage ones, all of this is basically replaceable. like everything in the normal raid metal shop is replaceable to one extent or another. They even have stuff from specific events. You may not keep any of that. And I'm not kidding. The S raid metals, which is the purple ones, are the big ones you need to grind. This gives you some of the best stuff that you can get for free, which are these weapons that have Vigorous, these weapons that have Rebellion. You'll grab one or the other. Don't use both in the same grid. It's not worth it. And the other thing that you're going to be getting is these newer weapons too. I said the elaborate ones from Ultimate will fall off. This is the reason why, because there's a stronger version in here. And when you final break it, and even final break 2, which is the fifth star, we also call it Ultimate Limit Break. When you get that, it's pretty powerful. Lots of base stats, lots of skill level points and all that. It's going to be very good. Now, there's other stuff you can trade for in all these different shops. Like, even like if you want to get soul weapons, here you go. You can trade the regalia for them. You will need soul weapons to make better soul weapons, so keep that in mind. But there's this stuff where you can get canvas, and then these little treasures, we call them globes. But those also will trade for different weapons, and even some add-ons from this list as well. So keep that in mind. The add-ons from this list are worth keeping, unless you get specific ones from the gacha, which would be the Catastrophe add-ons, the SSR version. If you get SSR Catastrophe add-ons, then you can ignore the add-ons in here. Unless you just want to get them anyway. And then this is where you can trade for some of these accessories from the Guardian Plus raids if you want to. But honestly, they can drop, so you may want to just go for the RNG. And then there's this to trade for all these different items. Like, I can get a book right now. Like I said, you can get the pages for it. 100 pages for one of these books, so. You may need to trade for the Orichao cons. Personally, I don't trade for any of those, because I save those for other things you might need. You will be surprised at how many materials you need. So, there you go. But that's all in this little canvas shop right here. This is going to be a big shop you're definitely going to go through. You're going to trade for these weapons, because even though they can drop from the raid, you'd be surprised at how often they don't drop. So you probably will be trading for all this stuff right here. Like, I can get another one of these, which I'm going to do right now. So there you go. But and then you can trade for these weapons too. They might drop from the raid. I got this one to drop, but even though it's going to up my burst damage, it does it in a specific way that I probably won't care. Because my burst damage is actually pretty high to the point where it's like, this might not even help me at all. It might actually make my weapons worse. And there's one for normal attacks. Because these will add flat damage. And what that means is, its damage is calculated after the damage formula is already run through. But the thing with flat damage is that is usually pretty low to not even care. It all depends on how strong you are. They can help some people. The ones with the stronger grids definitely won't be hellbound, so keep that in mind. And then I mentioned these little accessories too. Again, these are pretty powerful. You may want to trade for them. I don't know. It depends on how far your grid really is, because you should focus on these weapons. Like, you should focus on these weapons that use these type of discs before you even think about these accessories. That's my opinion. And then there's some other stuff too, like accessory points. When you do accessory quests and all that type of stuff, you may get accessory points to trade for here. Adoan orbs, definitely try to get Adoan orbs. If you really grind hard on this game, you can indeed get these two things up here, which will help you break limit your SSR stuff. Expect a pretty long grind though. But the main reason why you're even doing this anyway is because of these Adoans. All these Adoans are pretty good. Like, every last SSR Adoan in the shop is pretty good. Although they kind of screwed up the images for some reason. I don't even know why. But all the SSR Adoans are pretty good here. And then a lot of them will be sub-slot if you've got better. So keep that in mind. Don't ever trade for accessories. Ever. Ever. Don't. Do not trade Adoan orbs for that. Now, Daily, you can come in here and get some free magic jewels. It's there. It ain't much. It adds up over time, but it's just there. You can trade for different materials if you happen to be like low on specific things. Don't worry about any of the main quest trades unless you're just that much of a collectathonist, but there's some stuff in the game you probably can't collect now anyway, so I wouldn't even worry about it at all. Unless you're just that low on energy seeds and half elixirs. Which you will burn through a lot of them, but you'll probably gain a lot more. But you can trade for this stuff. Like, this even says 999 plus. Like, that's how much I have on some of this stuff. Like, you can easily get thousands or tens of thousands of certain materials. Like, I got so much of this crap that I can really just trade like crazy if I really wanted to. So, if you do want to trade for a few things, you can do that. But keep in mind that everything in the element quest drops from the element quest, so you may not have to trade for them at all. And then this is some special thing for like specific gotchas. Don't worry about the other one. You may have some use for it later, but you don't really have to worry about it. Now, going back into things here, additional grinds, and that's why I saved this on the side. The event grind is probably on the same level as the advent battle and the epic quests. You may find some good weapons from different things, but half of the time you're not going to really keep them once you get on later grids, because at the point where I'm at, advent battle doesn't mean too much for me when it comes to the SSR stuff. I just get it, then sell it off, pretty much. But this Union event that just ended, you can get something that's called an Exceed weapon, and it can final break 2. I've gotten another batch of it, so that's going to be pretty helpful. But other than that, I'm not going to care about the Union event drops. Like, I'll just get the free stuff that you get, like the guaranteed rewards and all that. There's also a trade shop for that too. But you mainly should focus on the SSR break limit stuff if you're going to trade for Union medals, at least up until you get this little 10,000 thing left, at which point you may want to just go for the Magic Jewel one. I don't know. But when you see specific events like Tower and Guild competition, definitely save up the medals in order to try and get these break limit set things. Trust me, these things, these little purple break limit things will help you out a lot. Don't trade for anything else in the Tower and the Guild medal list. The Union medals, you may trade for the Magic Jewels, you may trade for this little Holy Steel thing, but ignore everything else. But, and if you do get some Nikkei medals, because not everybody can get them, if you're a free player, you're going to have a hard time finding them anyway. But one of the free pools are giving us Nikkei medals anyway. Then you may trade them for other stuff too if you want. Like, the main focus is to try and trade for these little tickets right here if you want to. But who knows, you might go back and get some extra stuff. Like, I tend to trade for these from time to time. There's no shame in it, because you'll burn through a lot of those. But speaking of those, where you get them from? Guild order. And I've already done it for this week. But you go through, get your point rewards, and oh look, you can get these Ori Chalcons. You get like 5 a week. So, you get 5 a week from that, but you'll probably use a lot more. Battlefield of Weapons, this is one I've avoided for a while because of the fact that it's dependent on what you do. Because there's nothing wrong with grinding out all the add-ons, if you really want to be honest. Like, I've worked on one already, and I'm working on a second one right here. But these add-ons can be powerful when used right, but honestly, they're mainly there just for some extra bonus damage. And since they buff the damage of all the other add-ons, these guys do even more. So, like I said, they may help you, they may not. This is even more situational because these are specific phantom weapons we call lucent weapons, and they only work on characters that like the type. I have some use for this one right here, which is why I made it. And when it comes to release settings, these are only 2 settings I even care about, the HP based ones. So there's that. But these give something called final damage, which is also calculated after the damage formula. And it can be powerful when used right, but you may not even need it. I suggest getting one of these if at least 3 characters on your team like the same weapon type, and do not force the characters to actually be on that team. Do not. Case in point would be like this party that I'm using right here. There's 3 staff users and they work very well together. But if I had to pick like 3 random staff users that don't even synergize, then yeah, don't worry about it. So that's something to know. And one last thing too is that this little challenge tab has something that you may want to do for Magic Jewels, which is EX Boss Battle. Heroic Records just for bragging rights medals, but both fights can be quote-unquote challenging according to the developers. Honestly, I wouldn't expect them to be too challenging unless you're doing like the harder ones. So, there's that. But, I mentioned all of this stuff. Accessory Quest is the last thing I need to mention because, you can get accessory effects and all that, and they can really help boost out your characters. They can even supplement some of your weapon effects. So, speaking of which, 30 minutes in, I'm finally getting into setting up all the stuff because, hey, guess what? That was a lot to grind. First off, you can grind for more souls. This one is just a skin I got from a premium skin. This isn't even how this character actually looks. But basically, this is like an ability damage team. And when it comes to that, I pretty much just went Edison. Because when you go ability damage, you're probably going either Medea or Edison. And Edison's better than Medea, so keep that in mind. But if you're going ability damage, you're basically going Edison. So you grind out, get Edison, and then get, like, you'll have these skills right here. I tend to put Ambush as an EX skill for Edison, because that will give me some more defense debuffing. But sometimes it will clash with a Kamihime. There's other teams that it will. If that's the case, you can use something else. But try to make it a red ability so you can make use of this first ability for Edison. That's how you can really up some damage for that. Because Edison's first ability will do a follow-up hit after everybody's red ability used while it's active. So if I have like 20 red abilities, that's 20 extra hits of damage, and you can see how it adds up. But I got these characters here too. They also do some pretty good stuff. Like I can even just look at her what I gave her. And this is where accessories kick in because you can get some confirm effects right here, which is like bonus stats. This crit is actually critical, not stinger. Some crits go to stinger, some crits go to critical. It's confusing at first. Again, I got another video that breaks that down. But definitely try to get critical. The only time you even get critical is from Angel. Like the true critical is the only time it's from Angel. Otherwise, it will be stinger. So try to get Angel pieces as much as you possibly can. That said, try to get a good set effect as well. I went necklace set because it's upping my ability damage and it's giving me stinger because it says crit rate, but that's actually stinger. But the main reason is to up my ability damage. So that's why I went necklace set. You can go tiara set to get more normal attack combos. You can go bracelet set to get follow-up damage on your normal attacks, which adds up. You can go earring set if you want to try and up your burst damage a little bit more. And start off with some free burst gauge. You can go brooch set for a defensive Kamihime if you want them to start taking more damage, but that's niche. People usually ignore that. There's different sets. You can even mix and match these too, because if you don't have 3 of the same type, which would be like 3 necklaces, then it's going to prioritize the rank of the accessories, which would be like ancient or devil or angel, stuff like that. 3 angel will give you a huge healing boost, which is what I got on her. It will give you a huge healing boost. So that can help you out for saving weapon slots where you don't need as much ascension, as they call it. So that's something to know. But I've more or less got stuff that complements this team. And then on top of that too, this girl in sub slots give you something called a super potion. She's one of, I think, 4 super potion characters that will sit up and give you a bonus potion whether or not you put them in the sub slots. It helps because in some content you can't even get that super potion, so it's going to be a free AoE heal if you want. So there you go. It basically gives you 2 of them in raids because you can send an emoji for one, and then the second one you can get more. But this one here, she doesn't match the same element of the team because that's a big thing. You want to try and focus on same element. Unless you know what you're doing, in which case you'll still have 3 of one element anyway. But this one right here, she actually has a very powerful sub effect for all ability damage. I haven't gotten any accessories for her, but this little thing ups the ability damage for everyone, period point blank, even if she's in sub slot. So stick her in your sub slot for every ability damage team unless you're actually using her. Assuming you pull her. Because not all these characters are always in the gacha. Case in point, this one right here, Apollo, which I mentioned, the super potion, she's limited. Oach right here, also limited. So they're not always in the gacha. But if you get them, you get them. They're pretty powerful. And that's just light, because there's other ones too. Now, getting into the bread and butter where you're really going to start dishing out a lot of damage, your weapons. Because if you look at this, you can see the activated skill and see all the different stuff that pops up for this. Again, watch a different guide video on all the massive breakdown on this type of stuff. But here's the thing. You will need a very big variety of these different numbers if you really want to crank out as much damage as possible. So, you're trying to get as much coverage as possible towards one element. These phantom weapons tend to work on all elements, but they have specific caveats about them. They may or may not help you. This is a lucid one I have from Battlefield of Weapons, so honestly, it's helping out this team. It may not help out others. Then there's a soul weapon right here. 5-star soul weapons are very powerful. Definitely try to do that, but you need Malicious Plus to get them. You can indeed still use a weapon break limit item on them if you're super lazy. I suggest you don't do that. Just grind it out. Just save them for the other stuff like these Hime weapons. Like I have 3 of the same Hime weapon down here. Because otherwise I would have had to pull that from gacha. Or some other method like miracle tickets or something like that. So, that said, it was better to use my bricks for that compared to this main weapon, which happens to be Edison's. Try not to use the SSR break limit stuff on the free stuff. Unless you're just super lazy or you just have money to burn. In which case, you could just skip the grinding process and just do it immediately. But I still suggest you grind all that stuff out anyway. You need it for other things. But, generally, I just did all this stuff to cover different things. This is a Dragonic Eye weapon right here, which takes 50 Dragonic Eyes, but it was very powerful. If it gives vigor, it's worth. If it doesn't give vigor from the 50 Dragonic Eyes, don't even think about it. But it takes a lot to get the 50 Dragonic Eyes. If you can do it, you can do it. If you're doing Rebellion, don't even worry about it. So that's the thing. And then there's Eidolons. Eidolons supplement what weapons do. Especially this one right here. This main Eidolon is one of the Catastrophe Eidolons from the gacha. And she literally affects your weapon skills that are for light element. Making them 50% stronger. So if you had like an assault, it's now 1.5 times stronger. If you had a defender, 1.5 times stronger. If you know the actual numbers, then if you do something like, say, take a 30% assault and then turn it into 45%. And then this character attack thing will also add more assault to that. It adds it to the total after it's calculated all the other stuff from weapons. So it's like, okay, it'll go through. I have all my activated skills. It says 153% right here. It's really going to multiply that 153% by 1.5. And then add another 100% on top of the result. So it's like, I'm going to have like somewhere upwards to like, I think 325 when it's done. And that's just from that one Eidolon right here. Her. Yeah, you see why she's powerful. You can get the Guardian ones too that do something like that, but to a lesser extent. They don't get the bonus assault, and then on top of that, they're only like a 40% boost to weapon skills, meaning it's like 1.4 times. It's not as strong, but hey, it's still good, depending on how you use it. And then, like I said, the sub-slots and all that. These Kaisers I've managed to pull quite a bit, but I got some of them from the gacha. These are some specific gacha ones that are pretty good if you know what you're doing with that, especially this one. You can final break some of these Eidolons. I got in this one between Eidolon Orbs pulling her, some miracle tickets a long time ago. Honestly, it's still helpful to try and like up them. Especially since when you get certain Eidolons, you can get sub-slot effects. like the ones I mentioned from Battlefield, but they only work for loosened weapons. But this is the big one too. When you final break any add-on, they will give a sub effect, so that's something to know. Again, different video to break down all that. But basically, you can see how I have a whole bunch of the synergy that's built right here. So I left this blank because I can play around with this a lot. But let's just go through and try to build a team from scratch. So I'm going to pick a random element, I guess. Yeah, wind. So first things first, you want to go through and change all your main members. So like I already had it set on wind. Okay, that works. But and I'm not even going to try to use all SSR. I'm just going to try and make it like a little bit easier at the start. So I'll pick like 2 SSR. So if I wanted to go, say, a general like survival type thing, then I would want a character that benefits all that type of stuff. So this SSR character, she can heal, she can buff, and all sorts of different things. I will put her usually in the back, but it depends on what their effects and abilities are. And then I said I'm only going to pick 2, so I'm going to pick this one for sub slots. She's a potion one. I get a free potion at the start of every fight, so there you go. But the one I picked, though, is also someone from a collab. You may not see her again after the next one that comes up at the time of this video, but she's not bad to use, so you can try it for her if you happen to get the chance to. And then I'm going to pick, I guess, 2 SR, just to kind of keep it consistent. So this is one of the ones you get for free. She's not too bad for like debuffing and then maybe getting some attacks off, so there you go. And then say you might want somebody else too that can like play a little bit defensive. So you got this one right here. She can guard allies, give some thunder resistance. There you go. Just pay attention to what the weapon skills and the Kamihime abilities are. They really complement each other. Like she'll be good for a lot of defender, or if you get defensive accessories. And then like say just 2 random Arihime, I will play for like debuffing and all that. So she has debuffing, but she can also up allies defenses. So there you go. I will put her here. And then just another random one to toss in the back. There you go. You might have something like this. So just for a random example. Now, after I focused on all my Kamihime, I said I want a general type thing here. So if I'm trying to, like, say, up my damage, then I'm going to pick a soul that goes for it. I'm going to pick an A-class soul, because those are ones you're going to have until you get, like, a better rank. So, like, if I really wanted to, like, up my damage a little bit more off of, like, this team, then I would probably pick somebody like Shingen. And you can change how the souls look to an extent, so you can have like Shingen having like say that Lancelot skin, you can have that. So after you pick that, that's where you go in and you can immediately start working on weapons. I don't just yet because I can go through, get my details. Okay, I got all of this, but I want to change this ability, so I will go to that EX setting thing right here. She has all of her abilities are actually kind of useful, but this main one right here, Vigorous Rush, is very powerful. It's a lot of damage plus onto your burst. It's a lot of free damage. Use it. A-class souls can use it. S-class souls can also use it, depending on the S-class soul. So, that's something to know. So it's like, if I get like a full burst, I can sit back and just nuke with that. Now is the time where I go through all the weapons. If you have the soul weapon, don't worry about anything else. Just put the respective soul weapon on. I don't in this case, so I'm going to pick something that complements everybody. So, let's go with this because it's going to up their end attack damage, which will in turn fill up their burst gauges faster. So that barrage can be useful, but it may not be. Now, there's a special thing they add in an update too that makes it a little bit easier to put all the stuff. This batch organization button right here. So now I can see what I'm getting for the soul, and then I can see what I'm getting for all this. So I'm gonna pick weapons I've already grinded out, but generally, like I can have details and check this stuff right here. and it makes it a little bit easier to just go through all your stuff. Definitely read all your details and whatnot. So this one has a large stinger. If you don't have large, that's fine, but that's something to keep in mind for later. So I will have that held off. I want to focus on first vigor. So this has vigor. It's small, but I'm putting that in. This also has vigor, and that's a Zodiac weapon. This also has vigor because it's the same thing as the other one. So there you go. I'll toss that in. Now, if I want to go and put a little bit more vigor, there's also this weapon here too. But I'm going to ignore that for right now, because I'm not going to hardcore focus on all the vigor. So I wanted to also focus on burst. So I'm going to want something that has exceed. So here's some exceed here. Here's some exceed here, and that's going to help me out a little bit further. And here's some exceed here. It has pride as well, which would work better with rebellion, but ignore it. The main focus is the exceed. And then there's other effects too, like there's technicals and all that too. You may or may not use those. But generally you just go through, check all your different weapons, see if you want something like, say, if I wanted some ascension, I have this. And I can toss that in there. But if I want something like, say some ability damage, then yeah. But just to round up the rest of the grid, I'm going to put this here, and let's get a little bit more barrage going. So here you go here. So there's that. I put my stingers in as well, just to like try and get some extra stuff. There you go. So there, I got those weapons in there. Not all of them are finished. You never know. Some of them don't go fast start. But the point is just try and build this stuff. This is a free add-on you get. She's okay for a starter. Just don't worry about her until like after a while. But now going a little bit further, I can do this and this. And now I can focus on all the wind ones. I didn't even fully grind her out. I just stopped caring at one point. I can go back and get more of her if I wanted to. So if I want to pick the best of the other ones I got right here, a fully upgraded version of her will probably be better. But until then, I have her. So there's that. And then if I want to pick some high stat ones, I've got this one right here for wind. I got this one right here as well. And they have some pretty powerful buffs too when you can go off on the thing. And then if I wanted to, like, say, get a little bit more, like, if I wanted protection, I got her, but she's one-time use. If I wanted some more defender, I got her. So there's that. But I'm going to pick her just for a slight bit of stat boost. And then I'm going to go off of wind. Like, I should match wind in order to try and make the main one better, but sometimes you might want different effects. So it's like, if I wanted to be able to do burst a lot sooner, there's this one. And there's this one. If I wanted to do burst a lot sooner. So there you go. Now the last thing too, it's not just the EX skill as well. Like, you need to pay attention to doing these abilities as well if you can. The S class souls definitely have abilities you can change out. This one does not. But this is the last thing to pay attention to, the ability, the energy release. I've already done it for this character. The A class one carries over to the S class. Get some bonus stuff right here. There's different suggestions on how to do this, but you definitely want to max out the triple attack. Absolutely. This crit rate stinger, max it out. Then you can get like attack, you can get burst power. Definitely get burst power for the burst soul. That's obvious. But you could just mix and match it how you like. And then you can learn more abilities too. Some of the abilities take 100 MP. Yeah, good luck grinding. So I did all that. I pretty much just maxed them out and all that too. Now I can go into a quest. I'm going to just pick a random raid quest and just like let's go into the full raid. And then I'm going to go to the wind tab because wind's got the advantage against thunder. I can pick my own Idolin if I want. I can pick other people's Idolins, which I'm going to do. And I generally don't see the one that has the soft caps. That might have been helpful, but I'm going to just pick this, and then we're going to go into this fight with this team. So now that there's all that you set up in order to get your team, there's still one last thing that you need to pay attention to, and that is buffs. Because damage buffs will definitely carry you. So, for instance, I have this buff right here that I can use at the start because I picked a friend I don't want that's actually on my friend list. Gives you a damage increase buff. Let's use it. I wouldn't use this second ability until you absolutely know you're going to be ready for it. So I'm going to use these two abilities instead. I'm going to use this ability, maybe this ability just to protect myself. And then I can do like guard, stealth, and all that type of stuff here too, depending on what happens. I don't care about it right now. I will use her buff ability as well, which is going to help out everybody else. And I will use you for debuffing. And if this works, I don't remember if it stacks. No, it doesn't. So if you see cancel, it doesn't stack. So there's that. And I could send for support, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do this, get my free super potion. Always do that. So there you go. So now I have two of them. I have elixirs I can use too, but I don't really use them. Unless I'm like refilling my stamina. So there, I got normal attacks. And from what I'm doing too, I've already got a decent amount of damage. So there's that. I can even lower the damage I take even further. So now I can go through, do all this. And now is the time where I'm probably going to sit up and take some protective damage. So like I can do this. And if I wanted to, I can do this. That will add a debuff that will lower the damage that the enemy deals to me. So there you go. And you can see the sting is actually upping my damage when they go off. So there's all of that. And now's the time I'm going to do this. So I'm going to use that ability, lower her burst gauge. Now if I get to use it, that's fine. Just keep in mind that all your buffs and abilities last for a specific amount of turns. So I got one more turn to try and like get everybody going. Sometimes it won't line up to how you want it to be. But that's what these things are for. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do this. Use that already because it lasts for like 3 turns. I don't need that ability, but I can use this ability. In fact, I will use it right now. Up everybody's defense too, so they take less damage from that. So now, I use that Shingen ability, flat damage. Here you go. And she did like a 3 million burst. And there's somebody else that did like a 2 million burst. And our Kamihime generally don't burst all that much, but Shingen's 100 MP skill can still really help you out with that. And now I got her paralyzed, which really doesn't help out. But I'm still going to continue with this stuff. So let's up your attack power a bit. Now these I don't want you to have to be a little bit careful because they can give you burst gauge, but they will take down some of your HP. So the vigor is going to actually drop in that case. So in this instance, I'm going to use the super potion to heal it back up. And if you want to speed up the animations, this will reload button in the corner. There you go. Now this is where I'm going to really dish out some damage because I'm going to use this. I'm going to do this. Because I got some buffs and debuffs back. So I'm going to heal that back up. This buff is going to really help me out. And this one will give some debuffing. If they land, there they go. And now's a good time to use this too, so I can be a little bit more protected. That way she won't take damage. And now look how much damage I'm dealing. It's best to try and full burst if you can. See, she went up to 3.7. She was doing 3 million at first. 2.8. And there's the 2.7 right there. And she dealt a 2.8 as well. And then there's a 2.3, and I get a full burst bonus as well, based on what I did. And that full burst was like 8 billion. And now that I've gotten past that first part of the fight, this is pretty easy, because if you know the mechanics, this whole exhausted thing really like debuffs the enemy, but at the same time, you basically go through past the first raging phase, and there you go. I will pop that Dolan off, because I don't know when she's going to wake up out of stun. So, that's going to be helpful. But you'll see how much damage I just basically reduce. Yeah, she's out of stun already. So I can do this, and I can do this. And then now doing that attack. I basically took nothing. So yeah, that's what happens when you really know what you're doing. So I'm going to speed this up now. You've generally seen what you needed to see. So let's just get a few things to get these guys going a little bit further. Because I want to show off their burst without that special boost from Shingen. And this isn't my best team either. Far from it. My best win team can do a lot better than this. But my damage is also reduced because of that debuff. I mean, that buff that she puts on. She's taking like half damage now. Okay, so I didn't get the bonus burst, but that's fine. Let's just do this, do this, do this. And I could have sent for help if I wanted to. Now, this is the damage I'm dealing without that bonus boost. And the defense up as well. Like, see, she's doing 1.4. That's like half of what she was doing. And keep in mind, my burst soft caps are around like 2 million. Meaning it should be easier to hit those points. But I'm not. Because of all the defensive buffs that, because of the defense buffs that, the enemy has. And then on top of that, too, the fact that I'm also, like, not having a super nuke. So, yeah. You see how buffs and debuffs can really affect your damage. And then on top of that, too, I'm going to do this. And actually, I think my defense buff is still on from the 1. Yeah. I shouldn't have used that, but that's fine. And now that I've more or less got a decent cycle on these guys, I can still pretty much just, like, put this up every time I'm trying to, like, prevent damage from getting, like, shot at my face. And then just for kicks, let's just unload another burst. But the reason why the defense buff isn't coming back up now is because of the fact that the Raging Bar, she doesn't do it in Raging mode. Like, see, there's a 2.1 right there. Different things can really affect your damage, but you see, there you go. But yeah, that's generally how I up and did that one. But that's more or less just it. That's just showing the wide range of how you can dish out your damage, because that's still basically more damage than what like players would do on average by the time they get on that raid, until they like grind out some better stuff. So yeah, and admittedly my win could be much better, but that's still like not bad for a team that's got like 60,000 power just for a general average rating. But people where they really grinded out the grids and all that type of stuff, you'll notice that the power ratings start really be a little bit more on point because of the weapon skills and all that factored in. When you see like 70,000, 80,000, I had this team that had like 100 something thousand right here. So yeah, the results definitely showed themselves. Like this one's also 100,000. This one's just under it, but it's still pretty strong. And then I even got a healing one for one of the later raids, and it's still like almost 100,000. But yeah, that's generally just how I wanted to show all that type of stuff off. So this has been an hour. Sorry about that, but I had to go through a lot of things, talk about different stuff, recording and everything. But anyways, that's all for this. Like this is like a general overview of where to go and how to really try and build up your grid and everything. But that's just an example, because that was like a burst team. If I was going to ability, you've seen the ability one. And then like if I did normal attack, then well, I got a normal attack team right here. In fact, this is the win team I normally use right here, and they're actually pretty good for the malicious raid. And then I also got a fire team I normally use right here. They don't take any damage from the enemy's burst, which is OD when they get the full orbs. They don't take any damage from the wind malicious, and that's a known raid killer because the damage it deals is insane, almost on levels of unfair, and these guys take much of nothing from it, if that. But like I said, it all depends on your setup and all that. You just need to know what your characters do, then find the weapon skills and the other stuff to build around that. So there you go. But anyways, that's all for this. More will come soon. Like I said, other guys go into more details about weapon skills, add-ons, accessories, stuff like that. So I will link the guide playthrough or playlist in the pinned comment. But anyways, that's all for this. More will come soon, and take care.